Mack Brown won a national championship at Texas and then went 5-7. 5-7 in 2010. He was 2-6 in the Big 12. Do you know how hard it is for Texas to be 2-6 in the Big 12? The next year, 4-5 in the Big 12. 4-5. 2 sub-500 seasons in the Big 12? Next year, 5-4 in conference, in Alamo Bowl. I mean, the final 3 years of Mack at UT was Holiday Bowl, Alamo Bowl, Alamo Bowl. And the year before that, they missed the postseason altogether because they went 2-6 and 5-7 overall. Again, do you know how hard it is for Texas to go 4 straight years of no bowl, Holiday Bowl, Alamo Bowl, Alamo Bowl, and one of those years, no Longhorns player being drafted? None. They had no NFL players on that roster. None. They missed out on Johnny Manziel. They missed out on every major quarterback that they could have had in the state of Texas for like 6 straight years. Embarrassing. And to simplify it like, well, I'm going to have more control now. I just didn't have as much control. You know, he checked out. He checked out because the going was good and because Mack was done doing the work. And so he relinquished whatever control because he just didn't want to do it anymore. It was easier to speak and do public speakings and shake hands and kiss donors. And it was easier to do that because he's good at that. You know what's harder than doing a speech for the Lubbock, El Paso, Austin Longhorns Club? It's way harder to go out and recruit. It's way harder to game scheme. It's way harder to watch film. It's way harder to coach. Yeah, you could do the Fort Worth Alumni Club every Wednesday. That's what he wanted to do. He checked out. And so now to kind of say, well, I'll have more control over my staff, to me feels very disingenuous. It's like, no, actually, you just are now willing to do more work because this is probably your last job at a Power 5 conference. Now you're willing to do work. Back then you weren't. I mean, let's call it like it is. Back then, Mack was lazy. He got lazy because he had ultimate job security. They had won a national championship, and he thought it was just going to be a locomotive that kept running. He got lazy. So now just kind of say, like, I'm not as lazy anymore. I'd rather hear that. Like back then, I got real lazy about 10 years ago. And there were loads that Texas should have never, ever, ever hit. And forget what Tom Herman's doing now, trying to dig out of Charlie Strong. Charlie Strong was trying to dig out of Mack Brown. But because he's so good on the rubber chicken circuit, he's so good spinning a yarn, talking your ear off, dadgummit, all that stuff, he got a pass. He kept getting a pass, and he's still getting a pass. I mean, the fact is, when he says, I'm going to have more control over my staff at UNC, it just means I'm not going to be as lazy as I was at Texas. And we criticize coaches all the time. Coaching is work. It's a lot of work. Coaching at that level is a lot of work. I mean, I take my shots at Nick Saban's arrogance and excuse-making yesterday, but Nick Saban's work ethic is ridiculous. Totally, utterly ridiculous. Bill Belichick's work ethic is totally, insanely ridiculous for a human being. Mack Brown in that sphere was real lazy by the end.